Intel's 9th Gen series of processors are here, bringing about unprecedented overclocking capabilities due to a brand new IHS-based heatsink design that is going to allow for 5 GHz plus overclocking in real-world cooling solutions. In addition to this, you've got 4 GHz plus DRAM overclocking, and you're going to have a lot of granularity control to really be able to push these CPUs to the highest level seen in the mainstream series of processors. Now, of course, to be able to enable this experience, you're going to need a series of motherboards, and this is going to be supported by the latest generation Intel Z390 based chipset. Of course, ASUS and its ROG line, or Republic of Gamers line, stands ready to be able to offer you the absolute best for DIY enthusiast motherboards that are built onto this chipset. We're going to be highlighting two of these boards specifically with the Maximus 11 Hero, as well as with the Maximus 11 Formula. These boards have really been designed from the ground up to be able to offer an unprecedented level of aesthetics in terms of looking great, of course, robust overclocking controls, tons of improvements in terms of audio networking, and of course all the DIY improvements you're really looking for in premium DIY builds. So let's find out a bit more about these boards. So the most immediate thing you're going to notice on these two boards is unquestionably going to be their overall aesthetic design. This is something the ROG team prides itself on, is to really be able to add a premium design aesthetic and really have these boards feel unique and really elevated, because they're really going to be based in the highest end system builds that are out there. Now for the Hero, you definitely have a really clean monochromatic color palette, and this follows the previous design convention that we had in previous generations. That means no fixed colors to contend and compete with the look and feel that you want to define for your build, whether that's going to be through colors that you add in with different components or by leveraging the integrated RGB lighting. Now, in addition to the monochromatic color scheme that's on this board, you've got some nice contrast that's going to be present by specialized textures and angled lines that are going to be present, and these are really highlighted throughout different parts of the board's overall design. Now, when it comes to RGB lighting, the board definitely has you covered with two nice zones. One that's going to be in the overall I/O shroud section, another one that's going to be lower in the PCH section. These, of course, are definitely complementary with the 4 onboard headers that the board has for ASUS AURA SYNC. Now, if we shift over into the Maximus 11 Formula, this is where things really kind of go to a whole nother level in terms of the overall premium aesthetic. This board follows the same convention, but that monochromatic color scheme, but really adds an interesting and distinctive contrast, which has a definitely premium feel. And this is due to the fact that the actual ROG armor that's present for this generation has significantly been upgraded. It features NVCM technology. This essentially allows us to take iridium, which is a metal, and infuse it directly into the plastic for the ROG armor. This allows us to go ahead and have essentially an extensive level of transparency and refraction that's present in the actual ROG armor. So when the board's turned off, it absolutely has this really nice contrast in terms of a sheen and metallic nature that really looks great. So if you're somebody that's really looking for a minimal build with no RGB lighting, this board definitely still stands alone in terms of its overall aesthetic. At the same time, the translucent effect that's present because of the iridium that's there really complements the integrated 5-pathway RGB lighting. So there's 5 separate zones that are spread throughout this motherboard that really allow it to have a distinctive feel with that soft diffused underflow lighting that's present in those different zones because of the NVCM technology. And this, similar to the Maximus 11 Hero, also offers 4 RGB headers, allowing you to have all that connectivity and control to be able to synchronize with all those ASUS AURA SYNC RGB components. Now, with the impressive overclocking range that Intel has gone ahead and implemented for this generation, I think equally as important is trying to see how we've gone ahead and make your job easier by being able to offer an intuitive and advanced level of overclocking capabilities. And for this generation, ASUS's ROG team has implemented a brand new level of overclocking controls and options, and these all come in the form of our AI optimization overclocking. Essentially what this is integrated within the UEFI as well as within the operating system. The choice is up to you as a user. You have essentially smart predictive based analysis. The moment that you drop in your CPU and you turn on your system, our system is essentially monitoring what processor it is. We'll track the actual temperature that you have for your different type of cooling solution. So whether it's a traditional high performance tower heatsink, a closed loop cooler, or a custom water cooling loop, it doesn't matter. We'll be monitoring the temperature and we'll be actually looking at the entirety of the system's performance. As we track this essentially system performance under load, we will then actually intelligently be able to apply an actual overclock for your processor. In addition to the VRM components, we've also gone ahead and carefully looked at how to be able to ensure that we offer good thermal performance for those VRM components. Now, it's important to note that the overall components that we utilize on this board offer superior thermal efficiency that you would have compared to lower end VRM components. Regardless of that though, we really want to ensure that we have great cooling performance for those VRM components. So regardless of, let's say, things like the ambient temperature or the extensive load that you might place on an overclocked VRM, you're going to be able to ensure stable and reliable operation. And in this respect, we've done a couple of really cool things for both of these motherboards. Now first up, if we take a look at the Hero features a two-stage heatsink heat pipe implementation. That means that there's two large heatsinks with a broad surface area and fins to be able to comfortably dissipate the overall temperature that's being output from the VRM assembly. We've also gone ahead and implemented an entirely new two-stage contact mechanism, essentially where we have two different pads that are present to be able to make contact with the VRM. Traditionally, most heatsinks only offer direct contact for the power stage component of the VRM. But for our boards, we're actually offering contact not only for those power stages, but also for the inductors. This helps to considerably pull away heat from those components and offer overall superior thermal performance. You add to that, these two large heat sinks are connected by a high-performance heat pipe, and you've got really impressive overall cooling performance for the VRM. Now, it's not just the VRM that actually heats up as you pull more current through the system. The actual physical connectors for the CPU power connection on the motherboard also actually have to pull through current at higher and higher levels. This actually produces resistance and actually can produce increases in heat. What we've done for this generation is what we've done actually on our previous ROG series of motherboards and our workstation series of motherboards, and we're actually using thicker internal wiring, which we call our ProCool technology. This offers improved performance for this overall connection and helps to maximize the overall power delivery on all aspects of the board's design. Now moving over to the Maximus of 11 formula, things get really special. The board takes it to a whole nother level for users that are really looking to cool the power componentry on the motherboard. And that's due to the fact that this board features an integrated water cooling design. We've worked closely with EK for now 3 generations, this being our Cross-Chill 3 design version of a VRM cooler that's built onto the motherboard. You have direct G1/4 quarter connections to allow you to go ahead and easily wire this into your custom water cooling loop configuration. And for this generation, we've gone ahead and further refined the actual water block design to actually be wider, have more fins, and allow for a higher level of performance for your VRM cooling. Furthermore, we've also gone ahead and carefully implemented underlying thermal pads for the back of the VRM assembly that make direct contact with the back plate that's on the motherboard. This actually also serves to pull additional heat away from the VRM, so you're simultaneously not only cooling it through the water cooling implementation, but essentially through a large secondary heatsink on the back of the motherboard. This altogether provides the absolute best VRM cooling performance possible on a Z390 series motherboard. Now, equally as important as powering your overclock as well as defining your overclock is going to be cooling your overall system. And in this regard, these boards really give you a huge amount of flexibility, granularity, and control in terms of not only how you can connect all the different types of cooling components for the entirety of your system, but also really how you can control those different types of cooling solutions that are present in your system. So these boards feature our Fan Expert 4 technology. What that means essentially is that we have custom hardware on board along with our firmware within the UE5 BIOS that gives us really a wide range of options to be able to go ahead and tailor your fans and your overall cooling setups specific to your system. So first and foremost, for the headers that are on the motherboards, there's tons of them. So you can make sure to go ahead and have your intake fans, your exhaust fans, your group fans for radiators, whatever it might be, you're going to get covered. More importantly though is going to be that these actual headers fully support 3-pin as well as 4-pin based fans, so DC or PWM. The PWM support is really key because especially for the latest generation of chassis where you might find group fan configurations more common, like front intake configurations or maybe multiple fans for radiator configurations, really allow you a lot of flexibility. You can set one of the headers in PWM output mode, connect a cheap fan splitter cable to that, and go ahead and actually control 2 to 3 fans per one header. This really allows you to have a lot more granularity and control to work from in terms of how you set up group configurations for the cooling of your system. Now, in addition to the PWM and DC support that you have, you also have really a large amount of granularity and control and how you can have your fans respond to different temperature sources. Now, ASUS has really been a leader in this regard and has offered temperature input mapping on a couple of the different boards in previous generations, and that continues to be the fact for this generation. What that means essentially is that if you want to say, let's say, have your front intake fans respond to a different temperature source outside your CPU, you can do that. Let's say you wanted to respond to a set of hard drives where you connect a thermal probe to, you wanted to respond to an M.2 drive, or maybe you wanted to respond to the graphics card, which in most situations is generally going to be the hottest running part of your system, you have that ability. Beyond that, of course, you have the full ability to calibrate and control all the fans, meaning that we can find out their minimum speeds and their maximum speeds. This is really advantageous because most of you generally are going to probably have mixed fan configurations. Fans that come included with your cooling solution, fans that might come included with your chassis, and maybe some other fans you just add into your system build. So it's great to be able to find out the exact operating characteristics for each individual set of fans, so that if you go ahead and jump into the software, whether it's within the actual firmware interface in our UEFI BIOS or in AI Suite 3, you can go ahead and get these dialed in exactly as you'd like them to. Now, beyond all this, there's also specialized connectors that are really kind of designed for that next level of cooling enthusiasts. You've got dedicated headers for water pumps as well as for AIO coolers. You also have a dedicated water cooling zone on these motherboards, which give you temperature inlet monitoring as well as flow monitoring. This is great for custom loop setups. And of course, for that kind of next level cooling performance in the highest end M.2 based drives, especially for users that are considering RAID configurations, both these motherboards come equipped with M.2 heatsink designs, so that if you want to go ahead and pair the highest performing M.2 based SSDs, you can make sure to get the best performance possible from them, even under heavy loads. And more important is also going to be their location and their placement. For both these boards, we've also gone ahead and isolated the M.2 drives so that it's not directly underneath the primary by 16 slot for the graphics card. This is important because this really helps to minimize any type of heat pooling that you might have. So all the way around, whether you're talking about the connectivity or the controls, these boards are definitely going to have you having a cool running system. Now, with these being ROG boards, there's actually always a little bit more to take things to the next level. And for both these motherboards, they offer some really cool additional connection options, which allow you to go ahead and put some additional accessories that'll come into the market. One of them is going to be the fan extension header. This allows you to go ahead and interface with our fan extension card, which is already available. This is a really cool add-on accessory because for about 20 bucks, you can essentially go ahead and connect a free-form card that gives you 3 additional fan headers, which also support all the same type of controls that we've already talked about, and also gives you 3 additional temperature input sources. These work really well, especially for these higher end builds where you have a lot of fans, or you're essentially having grouped radiator configurations, or maybe you're just looking for improved cable routing flexibility, as the actual fan extension card comes with its own dedicated extension cable, so that you can go ahead and minimize having to run any type of actual fan cables directly to the motherboard, and instead run them to the fan extension card. Now, a next generation interface header that's brand new for this generation is going to be the node header. This node header is something that we've been actively working on internally in the ROG labs, and we're also expanding to now fully support accessories from partners. You're going to essentially first see the node header be compatible with things like power supplies as well as CPU coolers. But it'll also be an option for, let's say, third-party panels, which might come integrated within chassis. And this will allow you to have direct monitoring control for a wide range of cooling options, as well as for actually different types of control and monitoring parameters from things like power supplies and the voltages and rails that are going to be present on the power supply, as well as clock frequencies or maybe fan speeds and many other parameters. This node header has really become now a new baseline interface to allow you to have enthusiast class accessories that are designed to complement and directly interface with the motherboard on a hardware level. Now with ROG, definitely enthusiasts expect the best of the best in all types of regards, and that also includes audio networking. So let's first talk about really the audio experience on these motherboards. In this regard, ROG has really been the industry leader. For more than a decade, we've offered the absolute best type of audio design on our motherboards. In fact, ROG boards were the first boards to implement fully isolated audio design implementations on boards to really upgrade the overall expectation of what you would have from integrated audio. For this generation, we continued our tried and true class-leading technology for supreme effects. What's this mean? Well, we essentially have an isolated audio path. This helps to create essentially an isolated audio moat, separating the audio sections of the motherboard from the rest of the parts of the motherboard, helping to improve the overall signal-noise ratio performance for the actual codec that's built onto the board. Now, what really ups the ante for this generation, though, compared to, let's say, our other boards like our Strix series or Prime series or Tough Gaming series, is not only do we have a high-performance S2-1220 audio codec, but we also use an ESS Sabre DAC that's been built on board. This works in conjunction with this high-quality audio codec to really improve the overall tonality, the richness, the sound stage, to really be able to offer a great experience, whether it's going to be in music, movies, or games. Now, we also, of course, have our improved operational amplifiers, which are on these boards to really help to punch up the overall sound stage and the overall driving strength, so that if you've got higher impedance headphones, you can still get a really good experience. And even with lower impedance headphones, you actually have improved volume ranges. You also have audio-grade capacitors and other components that have been built on board to overall improve the tonality, the warmth, and the sound stage, really help to give you a great audio experience. Now, equally as important as the overall hardware design is actually going to be the software suite that comes with these boards. These boards feature a really impressive audio suite that's actually called Sonic Studio 3. You have tons of different options to be able to carefully configure all the different types of EQ ranges, whether it's going to be for applications or whether it's going to be specific to games. You have the ability to create custom profiles for different types of applications as well as for different games. If you want to have something specific for, let's say, Spotify or for your streaming services, do that. And then if you want an entirely different audio suite configuration for, let's say, Battlefield 1 or for Black Ops, you can entirely do that. Beyond that, you have independent parameters that are available to you in terms of post-processing that can be applied for your microphone, whether it's incoming or outgoing audio. That means if you've got, let's say, a noisier environment in your home and you're chatting with your friends or you're playing a game, TeamSpeak, Ventrilo, Steam Chat, whatever it might be, you can apply post-processing effects to really clean up that audio, once again, on incoming and outgoing configurations. This and a whole lot more has really been baked into the Software Studio 3 suite to really be able to offer you the most extensive type of control when it comes to defining the audio experience for your build. Now, in addition to the great audio experience that you've got on these boards, you've also got a great networking experience. ROG boards have really been known for offering a great level of not only connectivity on these boards, but of course the management options that you have with our packet priority software. So let's first talk about the physical connectivity options. For both the Hero and the Formula, they're both going to continue to feature our use of an Intel Gigabit Ethernet controller. These controllers are really the benchmark in the community. Most users really appreciate the stability, the reliability, the management options which Intel NICs are known for. In addition to that, they also offer outstanding UDP packet performance. And this is really important because a wide amount of online connected games utilize UDP packets. And in this respect, the Intel NICs have really shown themselves to offer an outstanding level of performance. But of course, these being ROG motherboards, really there's a demand to always take things to the next level and even offer higher levels of performance. So for this generation, we've gone ahead and baked in some pretty cool additions to really offer you next level connectivity in a couple forms. First up is going to be in terms of wireless connectivity. Now for Wi-Fi, we've offered Wi-Fi for multiple generations, including the previous generation, which had 802.11ac based connectivity. You had full 2x2 transmission support, and it was already very, very fast in terms of not only its throughput, but also its latency. For this generation, what we've really done though that is special is the inclusion of Intel's latest generation Wave 2 160 megahertz compatible Wi-Fi chip. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important from the respect that it's all about performance. With previous Wi-Fi modules, they were operating in either 40 megahertz or 80 megahertz. These new 160 megahertz Wi-Fi chips, when working in conjunction with a 160 megahertz compatible router, will offer for the first time true gigabit wireless performance. Beyond that, they also offer full support for multi-user MIMO. This is a key technology which improves the overall efficiency at multiple devices connecting to a router to really be able to ensure that they get low latency and great wireless connected experiences. Now, in addition to this, the formula even goes beyond the Hero at taking it not only with just one NIC, but actually two physical NICs, and it includes the AQC 111. This is a 5 gigabit Ethernet controller that's built on board. So for users that have, let's say, high dependency needs for their intranet environment and want to be able to have even faster point-to-point based connections, this is a great option. Or if maybe you want to dedicate different types of connections for different types of experiences. Maybe you're a streamer and you want to have one for upload and one designated for a download, you have that available to you. And the really important part to this is you can actually do all of this through our Game First packet priority software. Both these motherboards, for regardless of whether you're talking about wired or wireless connectivity, allow you to go ahead and define your network-centric experience. You can jump into our Game First packet priority control software, which is brand new for this generation, Game First 5, and go ahead and define whichever applications you want to be able to take the immediate benefit from prioritization. Furthermore, if you don't want to have any type of control being something you have to consistently monitor and action on, you can use our automatic modes. Our automatic modes will automatically use connection to an online database where we consistently flag and define different types of applications that are associated with different types of purposes, whether you're talking about games, streaming applications, different types of clients, and we'll automatically filter them and allow you to go ahead and have an automated experience so that whatever application is there in the foreground receives the actual network prioritization. And something brand new for this generation allows us to have a more complete end-to-end type of improved experience for these connected devices. There is now an integrated automatic prioritization so that if you use these motherboards with compatible ASUS gaming-oriented routers, we can actually make a direct connection to that router and enable its quality of service and device prioritization. What does this mean in short? Once these actual motherboards talk directly to the router will automatically set these as the actual priority device across the entirety of your network, whether it's wired or wireless. So when you talk about the overall optimized experience, not only is your router optimizing the device, but also everything that's happening real time in your system is being prioritized so that you ultimately have a better connected experience. So now that we've really covered, I think, a lot of the key points that a lot of enthusiasts are really concerned with these type of motherboards, you might be asking yourself, well, what about the general specifications? These are ROG boards, so of course, spec is par for the course. But it's important to always remember that spec doesn't define experience, which is why we spent so much time really talking about a lot of the more specialized functions and features, which really help to give you a better experience when you go about building your gaming rig. But for those of you that care, all the key specs are really here. You of course have full dual channel memory support, 4 DIMM slots, multiple PCIe slots, including full support for, of course, SLI or Crossfire based configurations. You're going to of course have dual M.2 support, which are on these boards, and as we noted, you have of course full M.2 heatsinks to be able to ensure the best performance possible. You got tons of USB 2 connectivity and USB 3 and 3.1 connectivity, both Gen 1 and Gen 2. For those of you who care about Type-C is also present on these boards. Now we've covered a lot of different aspects for both these motherboards, but with these being ROG, it's always about giving you more. And there's definitely a couple of really premium additions that are on these boards that occur not only on the hardware level, but also actually on a software level. On the hardware level, you've got some pretty cool additions, like of course you've got your clear CMOS button, but you also have USB BIOS flashback, which is an easy way to update the UEFI directly. No CPU, no memory, no graphics card. Just take a flash drive with the update file, plug it into the port, and press a button, and you're good to go. Beyond that, we also have significant improvements that we've made on the firmware level for a UEFI BIOS, where we have integrated fan calibration modes, easy overclock parameter options, RAID configuration wizards, as well as a customizable My Favorites menu so that you can go ahead and set up your UEFI exactly the way you want it, and you don't have to dive into different sections. If you're looking for a specific option, you can also leverage our integrated search mode, which is really, really nice. Now, beyond that, some of the really cool stuff that we've done is actually through software. Both these motherboards feature the ROG kind of software suite, where one, we've got a brand new version of ROG RAM Cache. RAM Cache will actually allow you to leverage some of the system memory that you have physically installed on your system and apply that to work in conjunction with your SSD, your hard drive, or your NVMe M.2 drive, or whatever type of storage drive you might have. This helps to stabilize and improve the overall write and read performance for that drive, as well as help to mitigate some of the overall wear on that drive, improving its lifespan over time, and really just help to give you a snappier and more responsive system. In addition to this, we also have our RAM disk software. RAM disk software actually allows you to create a drive from physical memory. This is really cool because literally you will have in a secondary available, let's say D drive, E drive, or whatever you want to call it, drive, where you can install things like, let's say, specific applications like your web browser, or maybe junction this to, let's say, a game directory for maps, and you can have extremely responsive overall system performance, where you actually have significantly faster speeds than even the fastest M.2 PCIe NVMe-based SSDs. Both these software programs are exclusive to ROG series motherboards, but just go to show you get a lot more than just the premium hardware design and specifications on these boards. And for those of you wondering, yes, we continue to offer a fully integrated I/O shield on both of these motherboards. So if you're looking, of course, to simplify the overall installation experience while improved EMI and ESD performance, both of these boards are going to get you covered. So wrapping things up, we've talked about a lot of different aspects when it comes to the Maximus 11 Hero and the Maximus 11 Formula. I think it's pretty easy to see that if you're talking about a high-end Z390 series-based motherboard, you definitely have to be considering these two boards. Whether you talk about the overall aesthetics for these boards, the build quality, and of course the components that are utilized, the overclocking capabilities, and of course the options that you have for overclocking, the extensive cooling control and connectivity, the improvements to audio and networking, the supplemental software suite that comes included in these boards, or just the extensive RGB ecosystem that's supported through ASUS AURA SYNC. Pretty much in all these different aspects, these ROG boards are definitely not going to let you down. So if you're really being able to look for an absolute benchmark when it comes to be able to build a top flight enthusiast Z390 gaming system, you're definitely going to want to check out these two boards.